happy video day, guys. Christina, Brooke here. Today we are doing another Make Up Your Mind. So a palette just got announced from Huda Beauty. So it's this really pretty palette. It's called Rose Quartz, and right when I saw it released, I kind of went like, ooh, I really like this. It also gave me vibes of some other palettes, which some of them are actually in today's video. And when I saw it, I said, well, I have to do a Make Up Your Mind on this one because I am assuming a lot of you guys are anticipating this release. So I decided today is the perfect day to search through my collection and see if I can mimic this color story. So like always, guys, I love to buy makeup for this channel. You guys know I love makeup. I also like to be a little bit of a cautious buyer, you know? I like to look through my collection and see if I can mimic a color story just to get an idea if I like the color story. So I basically look through my collection, find similar shades, swatch it out on my arm, and then just kind of look at it and say, what colors do I like together? Do I think I'm going to use this a lot? Did I grab it from palettes that I never use? Just to make a more educated guess before picking up a brand new release. So that is what we're doing today. We're going to try to find the Rose Quartz in my collection. And I will say there was a brand new release that did not release that long ago that I feel like I jumped into quite a lot to try to mimic this story. So anyways, if you guys like this type of video, I do it every single time a new eyeshadow palette releases that really catches my attention, and I would love it if you'd want to hit subscribe, join the family. I love to do makeup reviews, fashion videos, and some cautious buyer videos as well. So let's go ahead, let's get into the details of the palette. I'll show you guys the palettes that I pulled from my collection, and let's start right now. Okay guys, so here is the details. So this is going to be the Rose Quartz collection, and it's by Huda Beauty. The palette itself is retailing for $67 US. So like always, her palettes are not very inexpensive. They have a little pricey little price tag. However, you do get 18 shades in the palette, so that is nice. So the palette is not the only thing releasing. There is also the illuminating lip balm for $21 US and the face gloss, which is a highlighter that's $39. There's a brush set for $35 and a lift and glow peel off face mask for $39. So that's what rounds out the entire collection that's coming out from Huda. I was looking through them. I will say I think that the Rose Quartz palette is really pretty. I like the color combinations, at least what I can see. The only thing I will say is that they did include that weird pearly glossy hybrid type of thing that they included in one of the last palettes that it almost looks like a science experiment. That actual shade, I honestly didn't even hardly ever use it in the last palette that she released with it. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, I'm talking about this slippery shade here. It's going to be something similar to that from what I can see. They are calling it a pearly gloss hybrid, so I'm assuming it's going to be something really close to that. And that shade to me has not been something I've really used that often, so that color I have a little bit of like a umph. Now the other thing is there is swirly shades in here, meaning that depending on which palette you get, how much pigment towards what color you're going to get. Some might be a little bit more purple, some might be a little bit more lilac, because you have to swirl the color together. I really honestly have noticed that I don't love those type of shades either, and we'll talk about that more towards my thoughts at the end of the video. But yeah, there's some interesting colors in here. Not everything has me extremely excited, but we're gonna swatch it out. We're gonna try to figure out the color story, and I'm sure I'm gonna have a lot more thoughts. Now, the other thing I do want to point out is this very strange looking highlighter that she released. I don't know, I don't love the little balls in it, and it's probably going to be like a gloss with the balls, so I'm assuming it's going to be like this shade, just like ginormous. If you guys remember this shade that everybody was talking about, it was like the controversial shade because everybody thought it looked like kind of gross. Well, I'm assuming she's creating a highlighter of that. I don't know. I'm not sure how much I'm excited for that. Now, my friend here on YouTube, Makeup Molly, she already has a review up, so I'm going to link her review and everything down below if you guys want to check it out. But let's go through the practice of finding this palette. Let me see what my initial thoughts are, because I feel like it's sometimes better to kind of like get an idea if you're gonna like something before you pick it up, because once you pick it up, you kind of get like hypnotized by the packaging, by the silkiness of the shadows, and sometimes it kind of like masks whether you're going to use it that much or not. You get like all excited, and then it sits on your counter for like 18 months and you're like, why did I never use that? And most likely it was because you just got like hypnotized by the beautiful product that's right there in front of you. So that's why I like doing this, because I don't get hypnotized by the actual product. I could just look at the colors and just decide off of that. Like, do I like these colors? I usually know the formula though, guys, of most of the palettes that I do swatch out, because I own that brand. So I kind of know whether I like their formula. So I kind of leave that towards the end when I'm deciding. So first and foremost, let me go ahead and show you guys the palettes that I used. So Natasha Denona's Retro was one that appeared very, very often. So if you guys know, this palette did release this year, and I will say I use this one a lot. Actually, today's eye look, 90% of the colors came from Retro. So Carli Byble was the other palette that I used. Honestly, when I saw this release, I thought of Carli Byble right away. I did have to grab one color from the Mini Glam. So this one actually gave me one shade. Natasha Denona's Lila also gave me like 2 or 3 shades. And then I did grab like 2 shades from the Celestial Divinity. Yeah, this is Divinity. This was last year's holiday. And then, of course, I had to get that weird shade from Naughty Nude. But that weird shade is very strange. But let's go ahead and let's start getting into swatching. I'll show you guys how I came up with this color story. Oh my God, they're cutting the grass again. Do they just cut the grass every time I turn on the camera? All right, so we've got 18 shades. Let's start off with the very first color. So for the very first color, I don't know. I will tell you guys, usually Huda Beauty's palettes, sometimes I have a little bit of a harder time finding the shades exact because of their little swirlinnesses that they have inside their palettes. But what I can think that it looks similar to is in Retro, there's this color called Patty. This is a really, really pretty color. It reminds me of what I see. It could be maybe a little bit lighter than this one, possibly in the new palette from Huda, but it has a very similar undertone. I was looking at it multiple different ways, and this is the closest shade that I could find, and I think it might look similar to this. I do like this color. I think it's a very pretty color in Natasha's palette. I'm kind of intrigued to see what this would look like in a Huda formula. One of the things with the Natasha Retro, that Patty, that shade in particular, was not very exciting. Like, it didn't have that much oomph to it. Like, it was a very pretty metallic, but it was more of one of her like more dyed down shimmer metallics. I would be interested, is that going to be a similar shade to Patty, just with a lot of oomph to it? That could be kind of cool. So I'm excited to see that one. It might be a little bit lighter than this, but it's going to be within the same color family, a very, very pretty color. I do like that. So the next one is where I jumped into Lila, and Lila has this color called Nude Vino, which is this one up here on the top. And I think it's gonna look similar to this because it actually looks like it has a little bit of like one of those reddish undertoned browns, like almost like it has a little bit of like a mauve-y brownish look to it. Now looking at the swatches from her, it looks similar to this color. Very useful color, awesome matte. I love that it's not like that. It's rich and it's deep, but it's not the deepest in the palette. So this could mix really well with some of the other shades that you guys are gonna see. So right now, I do like the first 2 shades, and in a Huda formula, these could be really, really, really pretty. So I'm starting off thinking this could be very cool. So for the next one, I actually went into Retro and I got this color, Go Go. I love this color. It's like the color I used all over my lids today, like the pop color that you guys see coming out. It's Go Go. I love this shade. It's almost like a mixture of like a corally color, but it's very, very faint, and it looks similar. Looking at the color releasing from Huda, it looks like it could be a similar color, and I always get excited when there's like a corally, almost like nudish color in a palette, because that's the type of color I love to use underneath. And also, since there's some purples in here, coming from Carli Byble, which Carli Byble had a similar color story to purples with a little bit of like that corally shade. It's a beautiful color combination. So far, first 3 colors look very basic, but since I know what's coming, I'm actually pretty excited for the combinations that I could think of going into this. Okay, so for the next one, I went into Carli Byble and I ended up mixing two colors. I went into Mandala, which is a little bit too vibrant of a purple, but I also put a little bit of Q&A on top, and I think that that kind of dyes down the shade a little bit, but it still has that intensity that I believe that the palette is going to have of purple, and maybe like a little bit like a oomph to it, but it's not as bright. But it's not as bright as Mandala on its own. But once I put the Q&A color kind of on top and like mix them together, I start to see a shade that to me looks like it could be something really, really, really close. And now you guys can kind of see a really interesting color story starting here. I do find this to be kind of cool because you've got like that purpley shade, and then you've got like some of those browns with the corals. In my opinion, kind of like a take on the Nude, but more to like a purple corally direction. I think this is pretty so far. I'm intrigued. So for the next one, I went back into Carli Byble and I got this color called Jode. So this is another really pretty color. I think it's Jode. Yeah, Jode. And this color is a deeper metallic purple. I love this one in Carli Byble. I think it's such a pretty shade. I mean, look at the pigment of that. I really honestly have always liked this shade. It's very, very pretty. And as you guys can see how I'm building this color story, how interesting the purples look with these corals and this like vino-y kind of brown. It's making a really interesting color story. And I'm pretty excited so far for what I see. It's not like just a purple palette with a bunch of different purples and you're like, oh great, I'm gonna walk around with a super purple eye. So now what I did is I went back into retro and I grabbed this color called Glitz on the top. It's a beautiful like pale pink with a lot of metallic in it. It's just a really pretty subtle pinky lid topper kind of shade. You can use it as an all over the lid shade, but you can also kind of like just put it on top of any shadow, give it a little bit of like a hint of like a pinky glitter. I think it's really pretty. It looks similar to what she's releasing. Now, she might actually have one that's even more baby pink than this, but that's pretty baby pink. So I'm gonna go with that one. Either way, it could be very pretty. It's usually not my favorite shade in a palette, but I do like that it has a softer pink look to it and it's not like fuchsia-y pink, which I'm so tired. So now we go back into Carli Byble and I grabbed this color called Byble. Now this is like a really cool shade. I love this shade. I've used this so much out of the Carli Byble palette, and actually a few palettes lately have released with a very similar tone to this. It's like a very light like mauve-y shade, right? So it has the mauve elements to it, but then it has like a purple base to it. So it's a really pretty deepening shade, and what I like about it is it can make looks look very soft, or it can make looks look very dramatic, depending on how much you build them up or how you use it. And I've used this a lot. Now you can see a really cool color combination between these two. You can also see how you could probably use this one with this purple right here. Also, the combination of this color with this color could work really nice. I feel like she did a really good job curating the color story. So far, it seems very... So now this is where I had to add this palette because she did include a very pretty, very, very pretty golden color, and I felt like it was the closest to the mini glam. So it's almost like a champagne gold, but it has a little bit more of like a gold hint to it. And I actually even think that there is a chance that it might be even more cool tone than this. And that's really pretty. I like the gold that she included. Like I almost want to just grab a little bit of this gold right here and just like kind of like put it on top and just lighten this one up just a tad, just because I feel like it's going to be a beautiful cool tone gold that's not super, super gold like these yellow golds that we keep seeing. Like it's almost going to be, from what I could see, a cooler tone gold. What a pretty color to include in here. This is another gorgeous color. I love that you can just add that as a peekaboo to any of these. Like you can already see how this all works so well. Okay, so now this is the weird gloss thing. This is the only thing that I think is kind of like duddish. Now, in the swatch, it looks like it has a pigment to it. So what I'm going to do is, what I did was I grabbed Helio from Lila, right? So the Helio is a very pretty, kind of like pinky metallic. And I feel like it had a pigment like Helio in the swatch. Now, I don't know if that is true or not, but it looks like it has a pigment like Helio. And then just grabbing into this weird gloss thing, I'm just gonna put that on top. It's not gonna do nothing. It's just gonna give it a more gloss effect and less metallic effect. So it might be like that, like this color in a gloss form. It's interesting. I like I said before, I'm not the biggest fan of this gloss thing. I used it before. It does an interesting effect, but I just don't like that wet feeling on the lids. To me, it's very editorial. It's something that you would do for maybe pictures or a video, but like to wear all the time, it's just not that comfortable. So to me, that's kind of like a whatever shade. Maybe, you know, it's something unique to her line, but to me it's whatever. So far, very, very pretty. That one already, I'm kind of like, I'm probably never going to use it, but you know. Go back into retro, and I went into this color called Vivian, which is a really pretty pale pink. And I think that it's going to be very similar to this. And what a pretty color. I did use it in the inner portion of my eye today just to give a little bit of brightness. I like Vivian. It's a very pale pink, like almost like the softest of pinks that you could think, just not going too much into like baby girl born pink. It's like a little bit less. So it's a very soft, dusty pink, but soft. So I think it's going to look similar to that from what I'm seeing in the swatch. And if anything, it might have a little bit of a hint of pink more, but I think it's going to look very close to that. And I think that's a very pretty color too. So yeah, we're going in a good direction here. I don't feel like I have too much to not like yet. I think as we go down is where I start to have a little bit of like an with it, but mostly all of this, I'm really on board. Okay, so here's the question mark. I don't know. It's possible. This one I'm having a hard time trying to match it up. But I believe that maybe this is one of those swirly shades because it depends on the swatch I look like. It depends on the swatch that I look at. But I'm going to go with Jude. This one is Jude in retro. It's kind of like a cool tonish brownish gray. I don't know if it's going to be identical to this one. It has a little bit like a mauve undertone to it. I think it might look like that. It just depends on the swatch that I look at, what this color is going to look like. It's an interesting color. Now, whether it goes more onto the gold side, it would still be very pretty. That's the chance that it probably will go a little bit more gold than this one. But I ended up going with this one because I wasn't really 100% sure based off the swatch. Now, there is another color that also looks very close to this one. So this is my wild card. I'm not sure. It would look really pretty. Now, even if this one had a little bit more gold to it, it still would look very pretty. So either way, I think I'm happy. More pinky mauve or more gold, still pretty direction, and I could still see it working really nice. Like if she would have given us like a hot purple right there, I would have been like, oh. All right, so here we go into Celestial Divinity. So now this one, I believe, is going to look like this color. So now I pulled a few palettes to get the perfect shade, and I felt like Celestial Divinity really gave it to me. It's a really nice pink, but it almost looks a little hot pinky. I don't know if it's going to be as hot pinky as it photographed. So I'm going to say that maybe it's going to be a little bit more dyed down, just still pink. Now, when you put this on the lid, it looks a lot more pink than it's looking right now. I think it's going to be close to that. If anything, maybe even a little bit more pinker. That shade to me, I honestly think that that was kind of like a not needed shade. I mean, this is just my personal opinion. I don't really love bubblegum pink shadows, and I usually tend to never use them. Can it work with these? Yeah, sure, it could work. Maybe you could even use this one with this one and create a really pretty matte lid that's very soft, very spring actually. But I think it could work. I don't think it was needed. That's just for me. I would rather have had something a little bit different, maybe even a really deep purple matte to really accentuate some of these purpley looks. I think I would have enjoyed that than going in a more pink direction. This one I jumped back into retro and I got into this color called Apart right here, Opart. Very, very, very pretty color. Another really nice blending shade, a nice deep brown. If anything, when you build this up, it's going to be even deeper. It could be even more brown than this one. We might even be able to say that it could be close to the color inside of this glam right here, the mini glam, and even add a little bit more richness to this, because this one to me looks like it's going to be a really deep, cool tone brown, which to me is gorgeous. One thing with Huda Beauty is she really knows how to really smoke out eyes. So I'm happy she included something very smoky. I mean, I can use this with so many of these shades to just really smoke out outer V's or to create a really, really nice smoky eye. So I'm happy with that color. All right, so back into retro. So I grabbed into this color Andy right here. Now I might actually have to add a little bit of another color to just deepen this a little bit. It might actually be really close to this one. So I'm thinking it's gonna be close to this Andy color right here. Has a little bit of like a purpley tone to it, but it also has that pink. That's where I start to see more pink coming, like this section here. I like that color. I do use it sometimes in the retro palette. Not my favorite color, but like I've said, not a huge pink person. It's pretty, you know, if you guys can see, this is all really talking to each other. So now I jumped into Celestial Divinity. I grabbed this shade right here. This reminds me a lot of the color. It's like a cross between a purpley mauve. If anything, this one here is going to be very close to this shade that I just swatched up here. So like I said, this one might actually be more gold than this, and this one might be similar to these. I love this color. I think it's a very useful color. I think it's great with all of these. I really think that this color story is really up my alley. It's just really pretty and airy, and I don't know. I'm really liking this. So we have 3 more shades, and they're all kind of like light and leaning towards the pink side, but not super pink. So now the next one I feel like is a wild card as well. Okay, because I saw some swatches that this looked very purple, and I saw some swatches that this looked very pink. So this one might be a shifter, but I went into Mandala, so I'm just gonna take a creative freedom here and just say that it's gonna be a little bit more purple, and it just depends on the lighting that you look at it. And I'm gonna say that it's gonna look similar to that, but it's gonna look similar to that whether it goes more pink or if it goes more purple. Either way, we'll still match this color story. I would rather it go more purple. I would rather it go more purple because I feel like I have a lot of pink already here, and I've got a lot of pinky metallics as well. So if it was like a light purple, I think it would be okay. Even though I have purple here, might have been a little redundant. Maybe she should have given us like a really deep metallic brown or something, but we're okay. All right, so the next one I went into retro, and I grabbed the color Nude Mauve. Where are you? Nude Mauve right here. Such a useful blending shade, also very, very pretty. And I do feel like this is one that I use quite a lot every time I use any of these palettes. I use it in Lila, and I also use it a lot in this palette. Nude Mauve's a very, very pretty color. It looks similar, so similar to the swatch. So I think it's gonna be almost identical to that color. This color goes great with purples, great with pinks, great with burgundies. That's why it's in retro. So this is a great color for this color story. And then finally, I'm ending it out with Psychedelic. I think it's gonna look similar to this. It looks like a metallic-y pink that is very high shine. And oh my goodness, it is pouring rain outside right now. I wonder if you guys hear it. But anyways, it's gonna look similar to this is what I'm thinking. And I think maybe it needed that. I don't see like that light of a pink. Well, I guess this one. So these two are gonna be interesting to how close they are to each other. I don't know why brands always do that to us. Why do we always have to get such similar shades? But this is what I think the new Huda Beauty Rose Quartz is gonna look like. And if you guys can tell, I think that this is really pretty. I really do. If it's anything like this, which I have seen the swatches and stuff, I feel like it will be close to this. This is the section that worries me, whether it's gonna get very pink or if it's going to be a little bit of a muted pink. I like this color story. If you guys know my eyelids today, I recreated a look that you could probably create if you bought this palette, because that's usually what I do. You will see it up on Instagram at Christina Brooke Beauty. But I like this color story. I think it's very pretty. What do you guys think? I think it could be very gorgeous. Now, my little concerns are the swirly shades of what color you're really gonna get. I really hate that, and I've noticed that I'm a very visual designer for the eyes. I look at colors and I start to create the colors I want to mix together before I start a look. And those swirly shades get me off because I don't know, like I have to actually swirl it to look at it and say, okay, well, where do I want this to go? So they kind of throw somebody like me off because I don't love that. I like to see what I'm going to use. So I don't love the swirly shades. I don't love the gloss. I think that that's kind of useless. And other than that, I do like the color story. So if you guys can see, I'm going to make up my mind and say, yes, I'm going to be picking this up. I feel like it's something I will get use out of, and I also think it's something interesting. Now, I will say, if you guys noticed in this video, retro was referenced a lot. I believe that there's going to be a lot of similar colors to retro, but it's going to be different because none of the purples can be taken from retro or the gold. So there is a difference to retro. Obviously, it's not identical, but I did get a lot of the shades from here. So So just keep that in mind. If you guys have retro and maybe you have Carli Byble, you might be able to create very similar looks to what you can create with this. I don't own the Mercury retrograde. I was looking at it online. I think it might be a little bit lighter, a little bit more like mintier, and this one might be a little bit more, and this one might actually have like more of a wearable aspect to it. So that's just what I think. I don't own that palette, but I do think if you have retro and Carli Byble, you have something similar. You don't have the Huda formula. I personally like Huda's formula. Usually they're pretty damn good, and especially in her bigger palettes, they're usually pretty good. So I'm excited to see how this new palette is going to be. But yeah, I'm excited. I think that this could be a really pretty launch, and I'm going to definitely be picking it up. So leave me your comments down below. Leave your friends' comments down below and let them know what you guys are thinking. Is there any other palettes that you found in your collection that you think look more similar? Leave those comments, and yeah, until the next Make Up Your Mind, I'll see you guys in my next video.